Hi, good morning. I'm Dr. Ruth Anderson with Enlightened World, and I wanted to celebrate today with Camille DeSalme. We are launching our newest book today, and let me just get all this set aside so I can do this. We are celebrating the launch of Gateway to an Enlightened World, Collective Life Lessons on Personal Transformation. And Camille is one of the co-authors. So Camille, can you come on and say hello?
Hi, how are y'all doing? That cover looks really pretty on that book.
You like it? Good, thank you.
Yes.
And here you are, this bright one in the sea of all of the yellow lemons. That's you, Camille. Camille, your chapter is called Our Self-Worth. And I think it is so intriguing because you stepped out and you just kind of laid it on the line. You start talking about a gentleman that you met who came on to you and saw you only as a sexual being. And then you went back into your relationship with your dad that was very complicated. And you said he valued you for two things, your smarts and your sexuality.
Yeah.
And what a number that must do on a young woman growing.
It was when I was 13 to 15. So what a horrible time, pubescent and I was an innocent young woman. I didn't have a ton of common sense. I didn't have any sexual sense. I had none of that. And yeah, it did a number on me. Yes. I mean, for it to affect me, still 40 years later, and of course, much less now, much less. But I say, of course, simply because I've released a lot of it over the years. Yeah.
So how did you turn around your sense of self-worth? I know it's a journey.
Oh, yeah.
I know that you've had instrumental teachers along the way. I know that Kyle Cease is one of them.
Mm-hmm.
We both respect him greatly as a teacher. But in your journey, can you think of any particular things that helped you get it into perspective or kind of transmute it?
Yeah. One of the first things I did was I started to address it with Dad when I was about 21 and actually talk with him about it. First, I started yelling at him about it, which he was at that point okay with hearing because he knew he'd messed up. And he was always willing to talk with me about it. And then at some point, I decided I was beating him up and I was going to quit beating him up about it. And I think that was in my 30s. And I thought, I'm just not going to beat him up about it anymore. I'm going to deal with it. I can talk with him about it, but I'm done with attacking him with it. And something about that makes me think now that I was taking more of the responsibility on for myself of my own healing rather than wanting him to fix it. Right. And I thought, gosh, it seemed to take a long time, but I was in my 30s. So it did take some maturing and learning. Yeah. And then I also started learning about introspection and how to do it in a very productive way through a series of seminars. It's a weekend long. I did a bunch of them called More to Life that Brad Bradford and Roy Whitten created and produced, and they're still held worldwide. And that helped me learn about listening to my own self and talking with the parts of me that had gone through different experiences, these parts of ourselves that have gone through experiences and have been traumatized or have created habits and patterns to deal with anything that looks like that trauma. And then started listening to Kyle. Took a meditation course in the mid-90s, helped more with that, listening to yourself. Started listening to Kyle Cease about 3 years ago, even more of that. And I think what the main point is that I actually applied it. I used it regularly. It's just a part of my life to listen to myself. And what I realized probably just a few months ago was that I didn't have a strong sense of my self-worth. I knew I was worth something. I didn't know why or what. And that's where the real awareness of what is my self-worth started. You know, and what triggered it was seeing a friend's Facebook post about self-worth. And she had the same thing. She was just realizing that she was valuable and just starting to get it. And I realized I was valuable and that I had no idea why. And I started getting feedback from people about why I'm valuable. Thank you, Ruth.
So it's interesting though, Camille, because even by asking other people for their feedback, that's still outside sources validating you.
Yes,
That's
it is.
still not you validating you.
And I had to see if what I thought they said was true. Like I remember you saying, and we discussed this earlier today, Ruth said to me something about how I have conversations with cancer. I've had cancer this year. I think it's now gone from my body, but I've been having conversations with it because I don't want to fight with it. And that's not how I interact with stuff in general. And Ruth said, I think that's profound. And I said, well, I know it's unusual, but I don't know if it's profound. What do you mean? And she said, well, most people with cancer are running from it, screaming back over their shoulders for it to get out. And I said, oh, I get it. And I thought what I'm doing really is something very different and extremely valuable. So I had to, even though, yes, originally the validation came from outside, I had to check and see, do I really see this in myself? Yeah, it's a very good point about you're not going to believe your own self-worth until you believe it, no matter how much outside validation you get.
Right.
So I'm starting to get it.
Right. And I would think really that there are parts of you that are so valuable that only you know about. That the people who know you on the outside don't even know those fabulous parts of you.
I think that's true.
Oh.
And I think I probably don't even know consciously what they are. But one thing comes to mind. I have this somehow, I have an almost incredible, meaning an almost unbelievable to me, ability to love things that other people would hate. In me, apparently, things that seem to be just in me, things that seem to be outside of me. And I don't believe I'm the only person with this ability, but I do know I'm one of them. And I do know it's pretty uncommon. I mean, you can look at posts on Facebook and see that, and on other social media and see that it's a pretty uncommon stance. Happily, we're seeing more and more of it.
I think that's really cool. That's a beautiful gift, really.
I'm so glad I have it or learned it or whatever. And I'll even be talking to aspects of myself sometime and I'll be telling them I love them and they will say back to me, how can you love me? And I'll sometimes say, I don't know. I just do. And other times I'll say, here's why, you know, because I'm aware of why. Yeah. Yeah. And the man I met in Starbucks really helped me by echoing back to me my view of my self-worth. It's interesting. It all started with, I post-radiation, I not only have cancer, I had a broken hip bone that's still healing, broken ilium. And so I was walking with a walker for stability because very weak from the radiation treatments and to the hip and just from the bone break not being healed yet. So, and I remember thinking one day in the summer, I do not feel very sexy with a walker. And then I thought, oh my gosh, you never know. Someone will find you, but someone won't even see that, notice it, right? And then I thought, I just don't want someone who wants to take care of someone because they're right on a walk. And the very next day, this guy came on to me.
It's like you called him in, isn't it?
I know, it was fabulous. And he came on to me in a very enjoyable and pleasant and very socially acceptable way. I mean, he was just chatting with me. We had a good long chat at Starbucks. And then he started to, with just 3 hours of face-to-face or less of face-to-face interaction, because we'd gone to brunch, chatted at Starbucks, gone to brunch. And he started texting me sexual stuff. And I was like, this is so not cool. And then after being mad about it for probably 24 hours and frustrated and just not knowing why, wondering why, I started to realize why. I thought, okay, well, I'm going to learn something from this. What's the deal?
Right.
Why am I drawing this?
All about self-worth.
All about self-worth, because that's what I had learned about self-worth from my dad. Because if someone says banana, 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 you probably think they're thinking about a banana, right? So when he said, basically texted sex, 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 of course, that's what I thought he was seeing in me. He claimed otherwise, but I didn't have much evidence to the contrary. So, okay. Either way, it helped me a lot because I started to really address the trauma of when I was about 8, even before the abuse started, went up from dad when I was about 8 and getting this really strong sense that dad did not value me at all. It just hit in an instant. And I could go back to that moment and deal with the trauma that I guess I was 8, 7, 8, I could not handle. It was too much for me at the time. And now a million years later, I can.
Right.
Yeah.
The growth and transformation that you have gone through really over the years is beautiful.
I've been really lucky. And it's not just luck. It's not just luck. It's confluence of things. It's people supporting me. It's people dropping into my life and out of my life to help me out.
Yeah. And it's also you slowing down long enough to listen to that inner voice that's shaking and rattling and wanting to be seen and afraid to be seen all at the same time, and just turning around and loving it.
Yeah. Thank you for pointing that out, that the slowing down part. I think one thing that's very important, and I didn't see the true value of it until, I didn't see this value of it until now, is when I went to the More to Life weekend, which was a Friday night and then a Saturday day and Sunday day. So you got a lot of, so they would teach you some exercises, 4 basic exercises to deal with anger, resentment, the thoughts that swirl around in your head, and I can't think of what else. So for these, especially the thoughts that swirl around in your head, they want you to get at what's underneath it. So they would have us write out all these things that pop when we remembered a traumatic instant. Remember the instant, the feelings in our body, and then start writing the feelings in our body and the thoughts in our head. And what taking the time to write that down does, and being reminded to step back into that instant. You don't have to stay there and suffer, but enough to get the feelings and let all those thoughts that were in your subconscious and all those beliefs you implanted in yourself to get through that moment. Beliefs you implanted about yourself, whoever you were interacting with, about the world, about God, about people in general, all those things, you start writing them down. And the act of writing, takes a moment. So I might spend 30 minutes, 20 minutes to 30 minutes, 40 minutes writing all these down and then verifying whether they were true or false, or I didn't know. This all takes time, and it forces you to slow down, as you said, and listen. And I've just learned over the years, I rarely write stuff down now. I do every now and then if it's something that seems really new, or I don't quite have the concept, or I want to remember it, look at it later. Yeah, but there's a lot of value in that.
I know that others can learn from you about this thing of recognizing and embracing and revamping our self-worth.
Yeah.
Right. I know that so if folks want to learn more about Camille, how can they reach out to you?
You can reach me through my website, which is just my name, CamilleDeSalme.com, which we can put the link. Can we put the link in the?
Sure.
Hello. Great. Thank you. And I'm just working on getting on my website, getting someone to put on my website a way to work with me. And what I want to do, I will work one-on-one. My preference is to do small groups, and we can work like this over Zoom. That way no one has to travel.
Yeah, nice.
It's convenient. We can all be in our pajamas, whatever, right? And talk about how to listen to yourself. I'm also going to talk about having conversations with cancer. or with your self-worth. Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Camille, I love your chapter.
Thank you.
I
I
always love talking to you.
I love that you did all this work. Thank you. So what you have such a gift to listen and to follow through on the divine inspiration you get from the divine counsel you sit with,
Yeah.
which is so cool. Who you pointed out are all our peers, which is amazing. That's amazing.
They always have good ideas, I think.
It certainly has worked so far, hasn't it? And you've
It has
done
so far.
it beautifully. You've enacted it beautifully.
Thank
Amazing
you.
what you've done.
Well, I'm so glad you're with us for the ride.
Thank you. Me too.
Yes. So friends, Gateway to an Enlightened World, Collective Life Lessons on Personal Transformation. Pick it up on Amazon, and love to you all. So thank you. Take care.
Goodbye. Thank you.